Live your full unfiltered life with the Salome range for PMS, menstrual pain, and heavy menstrual bleeding. Salome, your journey matters.
Welcome back to Afternoon Express, and thank you so much for staying with us. Now, opening up the floor to talk about menstruation is a moment to both learn and teach. CEO of 360 Biomedicine, Tumelo Sebambo, is back with some more menstruation knowledge to share with Salome.
Heavy menstrual bleeding is when your periods are heavy or prolonged, as in lasting longer than 7 days. Heavy means having to double up on your sanitary wear or waking up in the middle of the night a couple of times to change your sanitary protection. It's more common than you actually think. On the Salome couch, we have Boity, TV personality, entrepreneur, and performing artist. And we have Candace Chira, menstrual health activist and minister of menstruation. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Boity, have you ever experienced heavy menstrual bleeding? And if so, how do you even manage it?
Yeah, I'm one of the unlucky ones that have been dealing with a heavy flow for as long as I can remember, probably since when I started my periods. And you know, with lack of knowledge and understanding, etc., you do think something is wrong with you, and you think, because why are you over bleeding?
Yeah.
Is there something wrong with your womb or whatever? You know, because it's just, again, it's lack of education around the subject. But well, obviously now that I have more information and I've learned through it, it's I'm not as embarrassed as I used to be years back. Where I knew that I'm one of those heavy flowers. Now it's just a matter of knowing what to do when the time comes, and I've always tried to figure out what can I do to make it stop? Not stop, just make it less.
Less.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it's obviously periods are very natural, so something I want to stop. But definitely I've always tried to figure out what can I do to make them less. Let me flow just a bit normal for at least 3 days. Give me 3 days.
Yeah.
I can do it 3 days, not 5 and 7. Oh. But yeah, that's just me.
It is common, but not natural. And I think, Candace, how do you define heavy menstrual bleeding? And are you experiencing or seeing more women suffering from it?
From my followers, often the concern is I'm bleeding way too much, or I'm bleeding longer than I should. What is going on? And there could be a variety of symptoms, a variety of things that could be impacting that, right? And I always just say prevention is better than the cure. Go and check out, right?
Yeah,
it could be a variety of things. It could be fibroids, it could be your ovaries being inflamed, it could be so many other things, and you just rather have that peace of mind. But just on a how you know, right? I like to equate it to a product point of view. So if you change your pad in every 2 hours,
yes,
then
that's a lot.
That's a lot, because it's a fully soaked pad. It's an absorbent material. The same thing goes with a tampon. In every 2 hours, you're taking it out and it's fully soaked. Then you have a heavy bleeding, right? Often what happens is that when people use your menstrual cup or your period underwear and they find that they're filling it up much quicker than it should, then that is heavy menstrual bleeding, because these things are meant to collect and absorb blood within a 4 to 8 hour span. So that is something that you need to be mindful of.
I think you said a couple of things that were quite important. One is having a relationship with your body.
Yes.
Knowing what's happening, knowing what the triggers are, what's changing.
Yeah.
And then the second part is actually having a relationship with a healthcare professional where you can discuss this.
And healthcare professionals, I think there's this intimidation, right? You go in and you're I have this thing and I have that thing, and they're no, it's just this. But you are the best advocate for yourself, right?
You know your body.
You know
what you're feeling.
So if someone says to you, oh, period pain is natural, it's normal, get over it, it's part of your period, it's actually no, if it's debilitating, I can't. Heavy menstrual bleeding is normal, get over it. No, I've soaked 2 pads within 2 hours. It's not, So let's remove that thing and actually say we are the greatest advocates for ourselves. Be confident and go in there and be I actually know what I need help with.
Are you using any Salome products for your heavy menstrual bleeding?
I'm using the H&B, heavy menstrual bleeding, in particular this one, Girl in Pink, we're matching.
Love it.
We're matching. And look, I think it was so beneficial, especially because I had just accepted with the copper IUD that I'd always have heavy menstrual bleeding, and that's what my gynae had told me. But when I started using the heavy menstrual bleeding, I was whoa, this period I actually have 2 days of light bleeding and 1 day of
Yes.
heavy. So I was like,
that
this
is
is
so
incredible.
epic.
And you experience it immediately. It's not just like you have to continue taking it for 2-3 months. It happens instantly.
I think at the start of our conversation, there was something that you spoke about around the fact that it's just how you manage it. But
Yeah.
there's also then stigmas. I know for me, I used to make the decisions around the colors of my clothes, what I wear, where I go. I used to wear the dress and a longer coat
Precisely.
in case. So
Extra
how do
protection.
we the extra protection? But then that means there's also stigmas around that.
Yeah.
How do we deal with the shame associated with heavy menstrual bleeding? How do we free each other as women?
Leading by example is fantastic. Not being ashamed to have those conversations, because I'm probably one of those people who bring up conversation. Or if I'm on my period, I'll just be like, oh, I'm having period pains. Or I make it as unawkward as possible.
Yeah.
And you'll find that the moment you start talking about it, all the other ladies start chirping in and being like, oh, really, you too? So for me, I think it's like leading by example, and let it start with you. And if someone even whisper slightly that, hey, can you please check, make it as normal as possible for them.
Yeah.
Like, I try and make it as like unawkward as possible, and whoever gets awkward, that's your business. But
Yeah.
periods are normal, so get with it.
Honestly.
Yeah, just
like,
leading by example.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And I think also embracing that period stains do happen. It's a
Yes,
part
and
of
when
it,
they
right?
do, just help. Just help. Just walk the person to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Help. You can give them your jacket or something. Just make them feel normal and
It should-
human,
it
because
should
it's
just
a
be
very
like a-
human thing.
A shoulder shrug.
There has to be a
Yes.
kindness
Like,
to it.
yes.
There has to be a kindness to it.
A definite compassion to it. As much as it is something that is so normal, of course, we're still dealing with the stigma, but
Yeah.
again, it is just by leading by example.
I had the crazy incident of staining my clothes 2 months ago. And, it was one of those things where I was like, oh, my period's only in 2 days' time. Oh, no.
They came through, right?
My period was like, here we go, hello. And I was wearing a nice denim jumpsuit, light blue.
It happens to the minister also.
Imagine. I was like, huh. And it was just a nice little stain right there. And the waitress was like, hi, sister, you've just stained yourself. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, I continued. She's like, are you not? I'm like, I'm not panicked, because in this current moment, there's nothing
I can do.
There's nothing I can do. I'm
It is
gonna
what it
embrace
is.
it. If people have a problem with it, that's their problem. I'm not dying. It's just my period, right? And I just think that kindness element is so important, because at the end of the day, we are human beings. These things do happen. And it's a process of unlearning, right? Because when I was 10 and I started my period, I didn't want anyone to know. I wore the darkest of clothing. I always had my jersey around. I didn't want people to know.
You didn't swim?
I didn't
Play
swim.
sports?
I didn't play sports. I just stayed in my room the whole time, just keeping to myself, right? And it was only when I turned 21 where I was like, actually, this is wrong, because the cycle was still continuing, where young girls still felt afraid. So I was like, something has got to change, because when I look into the biology of it, it's a natural, normal thing.
Ladies, thank you very much for starting and continuing this conversation on periods, on menstruation, on heavy menstrual bleeding, on destigmatizing everything menstrual health. Thank you very much.
Yeah, all females deserve menstrual well-being, and that includes knowledge and reassurance about her body from the earliest possible age. With Salome, your journey matters.
On a monthly basis, all of us powerful, fierce women deal with our menstrual cycle. But why let it affect our lives?
Anywhere I go, anywhere I be.
As your natural journey unfolds, let our products naturally assist you. Live your full unfiltered life with the Salome range for PMS, menstrual pain, and heavy menstrual bleeding. Salome, your journey matters. Available at pharmacies nationwide.